Okay, for people joining this live stream, I think this is a very live stream day for me. We are doing a review of visualization functionality for the upcoming version of Wolfram language, and we got a variety of topics here. And somebody who should be on mute isn't.
Probably me.
Okay. Streamplot 3D. Wait a minute. We've had a streamplot for millions of years. We've had vector plot 3D, but we've not had streamplot 3D. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Is this design complicated or is this straightforward? It's a vector field in 3 dimensions.
The design, I mean, the syntax is the same as vector plot 3D.
It's straightforward, Stephen. There's nothing weird.
Okay, but this is the point is it's integrating. I don't remember Lagrangian versus whatever fluid mechanics thing. What is this doing? This is integrating along streamlines, basically.
Mhm.
Yes.
So what happens? I mean, if I make a bar magnet, if I make a dipole field, for example, will I see?
Go down to the bottom.
Okay, those are monopole fields. Okay. Why is there all this extra crud here?
Don't know. Because you specified a lot of controls.
Right.
know,
I mean,
and-
so
and
it's
there's
adding
a
a couple
thing-
of points in and controlling how the streamlines look and controlling, a little bit what the density of them is. And
there's 2 balls, red balls for the.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. I never really internalized that you could make a Lorentz attractor as a pure stream plot. Because this is x dot, y dot, z dot, or something.
Right. Yes.
I see. So does it
For an
does it-
autonomous,
Yeah.
for an autonomous system of differential equations, you can always do this.
Mm-hmm. So if I were to take this and just do the default, the thing I'm trying to understand, each streamline, this is what I'm getting at. That's pretty nice. But now, so it has some automatic choice of the number of streamlines.
Yeah.
right,
If I was
just going through a small grid in each direction.
But if I was to change this 3, I mean, is this scale independent or is this going to change things?
It's still going to be the same number of streamlines, basically. I mean, conceivably it could behave differently because it hits the boundary in a slightly different way or something. But
Not for this case.
well, what I mean is, probably.
Oh, yeah. It goes in and out.
Spluffle.
Well, I mean, the other thing is that the integration has sort of a fixed number, distance that it goes forward and backward from each
That's
of
what
those.
I was wondering about.
Right.
This doesn't look right. If it's a streamline, it should be a streamline, not a piece of a streamline.
But it hits the boundary.
It doesn't hit the boundary.
No, there's stuff that's not hitting the boundary. It's
Look at that. There's interior stuff that's broken.
Oh, I didn't see that interior stuff.
Something's wrong here. I mean, this functionality in general is lovely, but something is wrong with your heuristic for how long the integration should be.
right. We'll take a look at that. And I mean, we probably still need some sort of control to manually override what the integration length is.
Sure. Now, what happens if I put in more streamlines? Is there a way? How do I say how many streamlines there should be?
Stream points. That was interesting. Why did it
Yeah.
flip that side?
Doesn't seem right. And that doesn't seem like it's, I mean, if I say stream points to 100, okay, that's hairier. And I assume that it makes no sense to have some opacity to these lines. Yeah, it makes no sense. Never mind, bad idea. And what happens if I say mesh goes to all? Does it start putting little? I mean, if I wanted to see the
I
rate,
don't think it has mesh supported yet.
okay, because that would be a nice thing to see. Because if you're along the streamline, it's how fast are you going along that streamline?
Right.
The idea is to color them like we do for stream plot. That's not in here. How come?
Well, I mean, it's being normalized out in this case.
What does that mean? What is the coloring normally?
It's the magnitude.
I see, but here these are unit vectors.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay.
But there's two different things. There's the magnitude of the vector, and there's as you go along the stream in the, how does it, you get what I'm saying?
But the magnitude determines the speed.
I guess that's right.
And this would be consistent with the coloring we use for vector plot 3D, stream plot, and so on.
All right. Okay. What does it look like if you use what's it? Mesh points for you got what I'm saying, for
stream points.
Yeah,
stream plot.
Yeah, right. No, if you use mesh points to show the speed rather than colors,
it won't be a super good measure.
Okay.
It's
all right.
It will be some measure, but it has a bunch of other phenomena there too.
Okay, vector plot 3D over regions, magnificent, but I don't think I doubt I need to look at it.
No, I don't think so.
Geograph plot, that sounds interesting.
And so this is, graph plot on geo, not, pulling
not a
out.
Geograph.
Yes, it is not what you consider geograph. That is pulling the, connectivity of roads and stuff outside of, out of our vector maps type stuff.
Right. By the way, Christopher pointed out that we actually need another thing with geo and all this other stuff. We need a geo raster in which every pixel in the raster is a projected region on the Earth. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Which is something we don't have. I mean, we have GeoImage, which is doing the other way around. But anyway, that's a thing. Okay. Geographic. So this is from city to city to city.
Exactly.
I mean, it can be many things that you can represent with it. Or did you ask for a specific example, or?
Well, no. I was just trying to understand what happens if you go from a country to a country.
It will, so if you have a, edge that's from the UK to the US,
mm-hmm.
It will currently look at what is, what geoposition gives for each of those things, which is some central location, and connect those.
Okay.
There's an example in applications that shows this sort of thing. I think it's in like orthographic projection or something down at the bottom.
Is Jose here, by the way?
I don't think he is. I can invite him if.
Seems useful. This is a very non-trivial thing here. It's interesting. So what you're saying is, by the way, find shortest tour and all those kinds of things, you're now suggesting that those should be returning graphs. Maybe you can do that. You just say find shortest tour of graph of, I don't know, does that work? No, that doesn't work.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't, because you don't have, if all you've got is a bag of points, a bag of cities, right? Then
Find shortest tour works on graphs, but you're thinking something else.
I'm thinking I want these cities, and if I say find shortest tour, it's kind of a good demo. You can find the shortest tour between those cities, right? Which we could now represent as a graph here. We are representing it as just a, geolist plot type thing.
Right. I mean, graph itself doesn't know anything about geo.
Yeah.
I think is what you're getting at. So, find shortest tour you would have to specify like the distance function or something on how to.
Yeah, I see. Well, okay. So, I mean, aren't there all kinds of options for the driving distance and all that kind of thing?
Yes. I think there's just like, what the method is. I don't think we have. I mean, you can look at travel directions or whatever it is. Which is.
Sorry, we should get Jose here.
I sent him email. So I expect he will probably join us shortly, unless he's at lunch or something.
Okay.
I don't know if he's taking lunches quite this late these days, but
I don't know.
Spanish rules. But anyways, this can represent quite a lot of relations, which is a new class of visualizations that we haven't had.
Yes, indeed. Look, I mean, I think, one example that comes to mind, if I pull it up, is like people going from one country to another, and then you can have thickness of those lines representing.
So that we consider to be sort of a follow-on to this with flows when we have sizes and stuff. So we want to continue with that post this. This is pure relations. Because there's a whole world of ways of dealing with that too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's an application example that's not quite that, but it's along those lines.
Yeah. So what does the automatic setting for whether it's straight or whether it's curved do?
So by default, it's essentially doing the same as graph plot, and so whatever graph plot gives us is what we use. And so, I mean, actually, it's looking like, and so like, it may, by default, it will get like that one that you have at the top. It's straight lines, except that, if you were to introduce, a duplicate edge or a self loop or something, then it would get curvature. And it would.
I see. Self-loop obviously is going to have things, but this is kind of weird hijacking of graph layout, which is normally things like spring electrical.
I mean, it's a little bit weird hijack. I mean, it is a hijacking of graph layout, but I think
why would that be weird? Don't you want that?
Yeah, but you can't do spring electrical embedding on you just pinned a bunch of cities.
Well, I mean, so if you look at the docs for graph layouts, it actually allows you to say, what's the layout for the vertices?
Yeah, I realize.
What's the layout for the edges?
That makes sense. Right. By the way, Ethan on our live stream is talking about edge bundling for large graphs, and I agree that that's interesting.
We're looking into that. So
we're looking into that, but it at the moment those bundling layouts only work, when it also is allowed to move the vertices around.
Right.
It's a combo thing, and so as soon as we lock the vertices down, because they have actual locations, then those layouts tend not to do anything interesting at the moment. So, but agreed that bundling methods is, absolutely going to be, stuff that we want.
Okay, is there anything else I should look at here? I mean, it looks like a very lovely function. Again, I think that the region to region thing, I suspect you want different kinds of arrows. Oh, look at the self loops. Interesting. Okay. Is it running in this version here?
It's running in that version. When I was trying stuff this morning, the external build I was using had trouble seeming to get geopositions from entities. Which,
Hello.
hey, Jose.
Have you looked at geo graph plot, Jose?
Not much. We have discussed it a bit, but not much.
Wait a minute, this isn't useful, what I'm doing here. What I need to do is I need to have a graph, right? So I need this arrow London. And then I need something like London arrow Sydney.
Works for you.
Yay.
Well, magnificent that it got the North Pole as well. And what projection is that? How does it get to the North? I guess it could be anywhere on that top line.
Seems like a rectangular.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I say, if I do the following, if I say random graph of 20, 40, and then I say, how do I label those with
Do vertex replace is what. No.
Vertex
graph.
replace of the graph.
Yeah. Oh, vertex. I meant to do that. And then I want to say the
Table I goes to random geoposition, I goes up to 20.
cool. Why doesn't anything go back behind the Earth?
You got lucky. Which reminds me.
This is using straight lines, so perhaps you have to say geopath in some place.
No.
Oh, wait a minute, what happened there?
it went behind the Earth and didn't get picked up on the other side.
That's
a bug we know about. I mean, actually, this is probably related to the discussion earlier today about Jose's longitudinal mod stuff.
I know. That's okay. So if I do this %11, and then I do how do I do
geocenter goes to 0, 0.
No. That's not what I want to do.
Okay.
Graph layout. Can I do like great circles? What are those called?
Call it geodesic.
It needs autocomplete, by the way.
Yep.
Oh, that's lovely.
I wonder why we don't have a vertex at. Oh, that's what's.
It seems to be cutting at the date line, right? Everything beyond the date line.
Yeah, but we've got one that's going into Canada.
Yes, probably because it's handled. I mean, the points and the circles and the edges are handled separately, apparently.
I mean, but so is that like one line that's like going into Canada and then coming back out?
Yes.
Or why do we?
Yes, it's being routed to Canada for some reason.
Sounds like some packages I've shipped over the years.
Okay, let's take. So okay, there's something goofy going on. Look at all of these.
Yeah,
that is interesting.
I mean, it may have something to do with the date line.
Quite possibly.
So if I say this geoprojection
I mean, if you set geocenter, then
No, I don't
like,
want to do that. I'm not
yeah,
doing it.
no.
Try Lambert. Yeah.
Okay, where is it?
It's all on the backside of the map.
That's crazy. Okay, geocenter. So, okay, there's some bugs here.
Yes.
Geocenter to 0, 0. Let's set it to null island.
What?
You don't know about that, Roger?
No.
Null Island is a fictional piece of land at 0, 0.
Oh. I mean, is it something we made up or is it a thing?
No, it has a Wikipedia
Thing.
page and everything.
Oh.
I think you can do your position of Nile Island.
Oh.
I wonder what's happening with orthographic. I guess we're at
Maybe-
the point where it's time to take a graph and run it through every projection and see what breaks.
It may be one of these cases in which, because one point fails, it decides to remove the whole thing.
It's possible.
Okay. Well, so there's some bugs here. So let's just take, for one thing, let me just take something here just for fun. I just want to try one thing here. See whether it actually takes a realistic time. So if I say geoposition, let's say continental United States, is that a thing? Is that going to work? Doesn't seem right. What is that?
I mean, it'll probably give you stuff in North America based on.
What's that doing? I don't even understand what that did. Okay, so let's say geograph plot. Okay, great. Okay.
What?
What do you mean what?
It looks like it's Greenland up there.
It is Greenland, but that presumably is the continent of the United States is North America, and Greenland is part of that plate.
Right.
Okay, so then what I want to do
Geodesic, or did you want driving?
is this going to work? What's it going to do with Greenland?
Yeah.
It's supposed to fall back to like a geodesic. Oh, that's interesting.
Coordinate failed should be a pair of numbers. I think I found your bug. Okay, anyway, this is really cool. Very nice. Let's see. Ethan is commenting about GeoJSON. I thought we had GeoJSON and TopoJSON. I thought we had those formats.
We do have a.
Do we have
special-
TopoJSON?
Not TopoJSON. We have GeoJSON.
Okay. Let's see. Does GeoGraph accept graphs with vertices given as explicit geopositions? That's an interesting question.
Geographics, yes. You can put a graph directly into geographics. Say with entities.
Yeah, but I think what's being asked is if these values were, if these names of these vertices were geopositions, not entities, would that work? And it should, obviously.
That's what you're doing right now.
Okay, fine.
Because that's what random geoposition is giving you when you're doing your
see,
vertex
okay, fine.
replace.
Fine.
Um,
Okay,
Yeah,
question here was if there are many vertices, will it scale down the vertex markers so that well, it seems to be scaling down just fine.
I mean, it's scaling with the image size. I don't know if it's scaling with the number of vertices.
Okay, that's a question. And do we think that this rendering, which is after all different from how we normally render a plot, we're doing this rendering so that it's more visible on top of geo backgrounds? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so for example, if I say geograph %18,
I think we're not 100% sure whether red is the right. I mean, it's the thing that shows up against the heavy background, but
looks okay. Now, what happens if we do? I see we're too zoomed out to do. So if we were to do the same thing here, and we just did to say random geoposition of, I don't know, Singapore. Yeah, I think it looks pretty decent. I mean, the red looks pretty decent by default. Why is there no labeling on the Singapore?
Because the GeoVis functions turn off labels on the background map by default.
How do I get labels on the background map?
Geo background goes to street label or street map.
Oh, 22.
So it still kind of worked, or maybe I just looked away at the wrong moment.
Oh, this worked.
Yeah.
Okay, and so if I now say geo layout, no, I'm sorry, graph layout, arrow driving, then
stuff should line up. One hopes.
it's taking its time. All right. Well, okay, I admit there's some things that were hot. Now, it's a shame we can't get to that guy. And there's some bug here with these ones that didn't make it from driving.
Right.
There's something fishy going on right there. This is, I don't understand this. Oh, maybe I see it's getting to the closest place it can get to.
Yes.
I'm thinking that several will route over the same road segment.
Yes.
I mean, that is absolutely happening, and it's an interesting effect having the red lines on top of the orange lines, and it just makes it look like a really thick red line somehow.
I like this. I think this is looking really good. I think it's really good. I mean, the size of the white dots, I'm not so sure about, but this is good. Okay, let's move on. List line plot 3D. Oh my gosh, there's a comment from P. Winkler in GeoSmooth histogram with weighted data and association is going to be fixed. Even the examples of the documentation, scope data, weighted data, don't work anymore.
Well, I think I saw a bug report about that earlier this week, so we'll take a look at it.
Okay. Can you indicate edge types in mixed graphs? By the way, I mean, this is...
Yes. The answer is yes.
Okay, but I've got a question here. If I say, how do I turn this into a directed graph? I guess I can just say, how do I make that? Do I just say directed? I don't know what happens if I just say directed graph, but if I say graph rule at.
No, you can make there is a directed graph.
Oh, I understand that, but what does it do if you have a?
It will make a directed graph. It will. I mean, there's many ways it can do it. What just happened?
It crashed. System crashed.
Wow.
By the way, it would be a nice thing perhaps for a random graph to be able to have a way to label it to pick the vertices from some set, like I'm doing here.
There is a graph distribution that does that.
Oh, really?
This is just the simplest possible graph distribution that you use for random graph.
No, I think he means to choose the vertices from a set.
Yes.
Or, to control, that it's not just integers 1 to n.
Right. Because in this case, I want a random graph between cities.
Yeah, but there's a geometric graph distribution.
What do you mean? I mean, I don't want to. I just want one where I've got the same random graph. I just want the random graph. Those arrows don't make it. No.
Yeah,
fail.
we'll take a look at that. Tim, you got a screenshot of that?
Yeah, I've got it in timestamped.
Okay, excellent.
Okay. No, but Roger, what I'm saying is I want a random graph. I want it with this connectivity, but I want the names of the vertices not to be 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, just like symbolic names, not where they
Or
are.
he gives a list of
Yes.
entities up front and says create a random graph from these.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's something we're missing. We should.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I mean, it's a very. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So can somebody take that and maybe?
I mean, there are notes coming out from this, right? There's someone
Yes.
taking notes.
Yes.
Yes. Perfect.
And they've been good at, sending stuff off to the
Yeah,
right
they have
people,
been.
so.
So that's been working.
Okay. List line plot 3D. What's the point here?
The point is to have, a 3D version of list line plot, the, list version of parametric plot 3D.
But but you're saying making it splining it or something or what?
I mean,
No.
that one's not splined, it's just relatively well sampled. So in the XYZ, if you give triples, then you get, sort of the parametric, curve type approach. And then the other one is if you give a, array of heights, then it's doing it as, basically slices and joining them in one direction.
Array of heights. It's giving slices. What?
Right. So each row is turned into, essentially a list line plot, and each list line plot lives.
Let me see if I understand it, even the most basic way. So
Okay.
what you're saying is, if I say angle path 3D of random real, I don't know, -1, 1, comma 20.
Do you need?
Why is it saying that?
Does it need to be 3-dimensional in some way?
Oh,
Yes, I think you need 20,
Euler angles.
22.
what's that?
Change the 20 to 20,2. In a list, in a pair.
Okay. And then we've got list line plot 3D. Oh, cool. Now, list line plot 3D. We haven't had this before.
No.
We had list
We've-
point plot 3D, but not list line plot 3D.
Right.
Oh,
And
this is the
originally
one-
this came out of, wanting to add a joined option to list point plot 3D.
Okay, by the way, this is a good source of examples if you don't have it already, angle path.
That is a good source for examples.
Okay. Okay, so now let me understand your other case. So this is the case I understand. This is showing joining up every point. Now, what's the other case?
So the other case is where you aren't giving XYZ coordinates, where you're just giving a bunch of heights.
So you're just giving a bunch of Z coordinates.
Yes.
Okay. And you interpret in each row of Z coordinates as a path.
Each row. I don't understand. From the base.
So think of it as
okay. Do list line plot 3D.
Maybe I can look at the documentation here. Maybe.
Yeah. Third example.
I don't freaking get it. Oh, you mean it's a bunch of lines in the X direction?
Yeah. It's not an uncommon visualization.
Right. So that first row, 2.1, 2.9, etc.
No, I get what this is now.
Yeah.
I get what this is. So I mean, so basically what you're saying is if I were to just take
if you were to do list line plot of that, everything has the same profile.
Yeah, right.
Yes. Just like that.
Andy. Okay. All right, I get it. Well, that's useful. Yeah, it's nice actually. It's quite nice. Okay. Any other choices for this function?
Not really. I mean, a follow-on from this is that we're going to use this to implement joined for the feature space plots.
What would joined and feature space plot do?
Yeah, what would that do?
You're the one who requested it, I'm pretty sure.
But what would it do?
Okay, Nick is commenting this would make a nice 3D version of distribution chart. And by the way, whoever's got clinking in the background, it'd be nice to mute.
Sorry.
Yes, yeah, that comment is great. We noticed that too. It's a great way to show distributions. So each curve could be a PDF.
I see.
Let's say.
I get it with different parameter values.
Yeah.
Right, which is I think what's I think we got a request from Emerald for this type of functionality for that purpose last year at some point.
Okay. All right. Let's look at these, and we're going to run out of time. So, axis object.
So the basic idea.
Not the real name, but
yeah. Well, so there are many reasons, but one key reason is to do multiple axis plots.
Sure.
And not just two axis plots, but multiple axis plots.
So what's the relationship between this and a scale that you put on a geographic or something like that, which is a floating creature?
This can be used as that.
Right. I mean, this would replace. I mean, this would go into how geoscale bar is implemented.
Yeah. Well, this is nice. So then, how do we get? That's nice, but we want to be able to get these outer frame axes to be this also an axis object.
That would. I mean, I'm open to figuring out how to.
Well, I would say that the obvious thing to do is to say frame ticks arrow, and then give an axis object. See what I'm saying?
I think that would work. I mean, I would be fine with that syntax. So you allow this object to be, this construct to be used as ticks and frame ticks, is what you're saying.
Right.
In which case, we can, elide the first argument or whatever. Assuming that the frame and axis things remain positional.
Sorry. I spaced out for 1 second. Could you repeat?
Right. I mean, so at the moment, the axis object has, besides all the tick controls, it has information about where to draw it and how the scale is on that curve, on that path.
Right. So we want to elide that out.
Right.
In the case where it's self-placed.
Yes.
I mean, I would argue, think about an arrow, right? Arrow has, what we do is we wrap arrow around the line object.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should do the same thing here, because I can imagine some scale, one day where we want a curved scale or something around a circle, let's say.
Right.
We don't need that yet, but we might
the-
want that in the future, an angular scale.
This one supports curved scales.
I
Well,
mean,
okay, I understand that, but I'm saying that the syntax, what I'm suggesting is,
Oh,
instead of doing this,
Mhm.
to do basically axis object or something of line of blah, blah, blah. Right? Just like arrow does that. Arrow,
Right.
we had imagined, I think it's a more flexible way to do it, and it will work.
I
Actually,
mean, it is in some ways more flexible. I mean, the question is,
is it
does
easier?
is it easier to then say, this point on the arrow is 0 and this point on the arrow is 10?
Maybe not. Okay, so look here, we've got arrow with 2 points. Okay, and then it also allows a curve. All right, so I guess we allow both in that case, so that we can have an arrow that is a tube. So maybe what you need is something where you are specifying the mapping from let's just see how you do this. This is an important function. I don't understand why you say horizontal and vertical. I would have just thought it was left, right, something. In other words, you're putting the thing, it's got some rule that says if you go from A to B, if the scale goes from A to B, is it up relative to that or down relative to that? Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
This one is so far not specifying that. It's just specifying.
I know. But if you go in line from point to point, you could have this, or you could have the flip around of that, where the whiskers are down rather than up.
Well,
Right.
but that's separate.
No,
That's a separate control.
Yeah, it's a separate control.
So if you look at the diagram at the top, so along the axis, we define left and right. As you go from small values to large values.
Yep.
And then we have options
Well, you can't
that
say
allow
it's
you
small
to
to large. It's just from one coordinate value to another coordinate value. Right?
No, I think it really is going small to large. That it's not necessarily going, first to second.
Okay.
Which maybe it could be. Trying to think if that is any easier to parameterize.
Okay, listen. Practical point. I have another meeting coming up, and is this going to make it to 12 for 12.3? This axis object thing.
It's
The
experimental.
plan is for it to be experimental in 12.3.
Okay.
As a thing
We
that
do
people
need
can
to do
include
this.
in
And so
graphics.
part of what we want to do is to have transitions quite a lot of functionality to use it before we make it non-experimental. So we iron out a lot of the issues.
So this is going to look. I think this design is going to take a solid half hour to do this axis object design. So I recommend that we try and reschedule this for tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow is really bad for me, but maybe the next day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
And then just as a preview for a second, what is this? What is this?
So the big idea is that there is a whole lot of scales in the world that's used for psychological testing, product ratings, medical testing that are not quantitative.
I understand. So you want to be able to take data which has things in those scales and map those into coordinates.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Non-numeric scaling functions.
Yes. So bond ratings, for instance, is like a product rating.
Yep.
I've learned about egg ratings. Do you know what those are?
egg ratings?
Yes.
Like your AAA grade egg?
Double A, not triple A. Sorry. There's double A, A, and B.
Okay. Well, it's a
Meat
question
has
of whether-
apparently 8 different scales. I mean, grades.
I'm
It's
sure
used-
it does. I'm sure fruit has lots of grades and all kinds
Oh,
of things have grades.
Oh yeah, it's a big world of
Right.
things
And,
that we didn't.
and the question is whether, if when the chicken was laying the egg, it was listening to Mozart, then it gets an extra little piece of plumage.
That's what we need. Right. Uh,
Okay. All right. Well, interesting. All right. I look forward to this. Great. So why don't we schedule? We need another hour for these two, the axis stuff and these nominal scale things.
Okay. We're looking at Friday, you said?
I think so. I mean, I'll just
Okay.
ask, just find out.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot.
Talk to you later.